I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
All right, welcome back. Here with Stephen Beseda on my podcast, Get It, through the Social Nostra Network. And today joining me is Coach Rhett Soliday from Vanguard University. And Rhett and I have had a relationship over the years, and he's won a national title while he's been at Vanguard University. And I wanted to have him on today because part of what we've talked about, and if you look at my previous podcasts, it being a culture changer, what that looks like. And Rhett himself is a culture changer as well as a program changer, and has had a lot of success and continued success as he continues to coach at Vanguard University. And I've had the blessing to cultivate a great relationship with him over the years. And it's great to have you on, Coach. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to not be teaching second grade right now. So here we go.
Yeah, I know that feeling, although my daughter's a little younger than that. But so, a couple things that I really enjoyed over the years of getting to come and watch you guys and stuff is no matter what the score is, you guys just compete. I went to the Concordia game a couple years ago where you were at Concordia and you guys were down by like 32 points at one point, and you guys came back and ended up winning by 4. You guys had a couple of big games last year that we got to watch, and it's no matter what happens, your kids don't give up, and I think that's something that's quite special. And it's hard to coach that because, I watch college basketball all the time, and there's a lot of teams that when they get down, they have that hard time coming back. And a lot of times you'll see, you can just see it on their faces. There'll be a struggle, guys will start to give up. And it's always encouraging to be able to see programs that have built their young men up to just be fighters regardless of what the scoreboard looks like. I know that can be really challenging to do, but I would love to know a little bit more about your journey for when you actually got to Vanguard University. And when you got there, what was the program like before you came in? And just walk us through that journey a little bit.
Yeah, well, I had initially no vision or intention of being a college coach. So I love the game. Been committed to the game since I was, I think, 5-6 years old. I just knew I wanted to be a basketball player. From a young age, it ran in my family, a history and a legacy in the small town I grew up in of athletic prowess amongst my family, I guess. So I was third generation from that same little small town that all my dad and all his brothers were raised in, Reardon, Washington, up in eastern Washington near Spokane. And so it was the epitome of Hoosierville. Like if you picture, what that scene was like in Hoosiers, and fast forward, 40 years, that was my childhood growing up. Is everybody, the whole town came out and supported the local high school sports, football, basketball, baseball. And so I grew up playing everything and loving everything that I did. And when I was in football season, I was a football player. I didn't pick up the basketball much in high, but then when it was basketball season, I was a basketball player. But when it was the off season, the spring or summer, stuff like that, I was still a basketball player, and it's because I knew that was what I was most passionate about. My senior year in high school, I was 6'3", probably 155 pounds. I knew I was not going to go on and play as a college quarterback. I knew basketball was my opportunity. So long story short, fast forward, I didn't have a ton of recruitment coming from a small college. I never played in the travel ball circuit scene. I didn't even know anything about it, but got recruited by a local junior college, Big Bend Community College. Had 2 good years there and was fortunate to get recruited. I actually had several GSAC schools recruiting me in the conference. San Diego Christian, at the time, great coach there, Art Wilmore. Cal Baptist was in our conference at that time, and then Concordia. And then I had a couple of up in the Northwest recruited me as well. And so I ended up, I just fell in love with the school at Concordia, and it was an awesome 2 years, had a great experience. And at the day I graduated, I was in my cap and gown actually after graduation, and our full-time head coach had just left for a Division I job. That was Rick Croy, the head coach at Cal Baptist. And as Coach Croy had left, Coach Ammon, who's still there as the head coach and going to be a Hall of Fame coach, he came up to me. I was in my cap and gown, and I was going to go back home and do a teaching credential program back home. And I was going to be a high school history teacher. And I thought I'd coach high school and someday take over Reardon High School. That was my goal, is I wanted to go back home. And I would later marry my high school sweetheart, Kim, and we have 3 kids now. And so I had it all figured out, and then, God kind of changed plans on me real quick. Coach Ammon walked up to me and offered me his assistant job. And I had not even expressed interest in it. And I definitely see it now as an act of God and a movement of the Spirit for me, because, I knew right in that moment, it wasn't even something on my radar. And as soon as the words came out of his mouth, I want you to come back and be my assistant, I accepted it instantly. So it just like instantly something clicked in my mind. Oh, I've never thought about this, but this is actually what I want to do. And I don't know why I'd never thought of it. I didn't have a plan or see a vision for like how I could make it as a coach financially, without being able to step right into a full-time job. But I knew being an educator was a great career, a chance to impact young people, and you actually get trained and you apply for a job, and then you hopefully get hired, to be a teacher. And so I saw that as a great route. Call it safe, call it whatever. That was, to me, it made sense. It made sense. And then I had no idea I was stepping into a world when I accepted that job at Concordia. I was stepping into a world that is at times doesn't make sense in terms of coaching at the college level. It is very challenging, is a what have you done for me lately career. And, the old joke is, people ask me, so you're the coach at Vanguard, right? And I say, well, yeah, for now, that's how that job goes, However, from there, 4 years at Concordia, we had amazing success. I was a part of teams that were ranked number 1 in the country for 3 years in a row. We won a national title. We finished runner-up on the last possession the next year. And then the following year, again, we're number 1 in the country for much of the year. And came up short in the national tournament, but huge success there. And being under Coach Ham's leadership parlayed into an opportunity to be a Division I assistant at UC Irvine under Pat Douglas, who's a Hall of Fame coach, phenomenal coach, great leader, amazing tactician, incredibly competitive, smart, tough, just all the things at that level that are required to be successful. And he was a great coach, and I learned a ton from him, and was very fortunate to work under his leadership. And then after those 4 years, I had an opportunity to interview and was named the coach at Vanguard. And so I knew right away when I went into the interview that Vanguard was a place that I wanted to be. Just everybody, I think one of the buzzwords you hear now at schools, around the country, people sell it in recruiting is this idea of community, like, oh, we have a great community here. We have a great support base. We have amazing people. And I know that that's true at a lot of places. But for me, when I felt the sense of community at Vanguard through the interview process, when Bob Wilson, the athletic director, who's one of my closest mentors now in life and as a leader, Bob broke down the vision that he had for the program and what he thought was possible. I just sensed and felt convicted that this was a place that would be awesome to work and awesome to lead young men and a place where you can have impact, and at the time I didn't fully understand what that would be, because to be honest with you, going into my first year as a head coach, I had no idea what I was doing. I felt like I knew the game. I felt like I understood recruiting. I felt like I understood all the components of running a program and things that go into it. However, you don't really know what you're doing until you're thrown into the fire as a head coach. And so it was trial by fire, figuring out how to lead from the front, how to make the final call in every decision, how to manage a game, how to manage a practice, all those things. You prepare for them, but you don't. Your best preparation is when you have to execute a lot of times, and actually go out and do it. And so I was thrown into it at 29 years old. The first recruit we signed was exactly 1 year older than me, same birthday. We call that an NAI special. Signed a guy that was 30 years old, local junior college guy, and he's one of my favorite people to this day. So many cool stories about leading at the NAI level, things like that, where guys get second chances and stuff. So Vanguard's been an amazing experience, an incredible decade of my life, special place for my kids to be, raised and grow up in the gym around our guys. And so that's been great too.
Question. So he was 30 years old. What's the restrictions for NAIA on age?
Yeah, currently there actually are no age restrictions. There is only semester restrictions, meaning you have 10 full-time semesters to complete your eligibility. Division II is the same. They have the 10 semester rule. However, they do have a few caveats in there about age restrictions. I'm not completely familiar with how it all works there, but yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I got 2 years of eligibility left. I could.
Let's go.
It's funny. So I grew up on the west side of Washington. So I grew up in Kingston,
right,
which is west of Seattle. And so I didn't even play at my high school. I played in the summers, but I got hurt my sophomore year. I grew up in a small town, but for high school, for us, it was at the high school, it was your sophomore year through your senior year. Our junior high system was 7th grade through freshman. So I don't know if it was the same for you guys, but
no.
So for us, it was. And so my sophomore year before basketball season, I was with my mom and we got hit and I got really badly injured in that accident. And because I didn't try out my sophomore year, the coach had a very firm stance about he wouldn't take you if you didn't try out your sophomore year. Well, I didn't know that until I tried out my junior year and I got cut. And he's like, I asked one of the coaches, he's like, yeah, you didn't try out your sophomore year. And I was like, yeah, I was hurt. I couldn't even I was in a lifeguard training thing at the time at the pool. And I was like, I had to stop that. Like I couldn't complete any of the physical stuff because I was injured. And like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it now. So I played in the summer team every summer and I did fine. And I tried out my senior year and I did really, really well. And I thought I made it because I did really, really well. I was prepared. No dice. So I got cut. And then my junior year and my senior year, I was going to Olympic college and doing the open runs in the spring and summer with all the JC guys. And so I ended up going to Olympic for a quarter. I was actually just going to join the Army. I was kind of tired. I didn't want to go to school. I have some learning disabilities and I kind of a rough high school experience, probably the easiest way to put it. So I was all about just getting on with my life. And my mom was not about that. So she made a deal with me to do 1 quarter of the junior college at Olympic. And Reese Gleek had just taken the job there. And I went in and walked onto the team and they gave me a scholarship, which was nice. So I played there my freshman year, my sophomore year, and then Western Oregon gave me an offer. And so my offer though was contingent on me playing my first year. I couldn't redshirt. And when I was at Olympic, I had hurt both my ankles. And I didn't know how bad it was until I went and got them looked at. And the doctor was like, yeah, you can basically have surgery or do this other program, which is this intensive aggressive physical therapy, but you can't play. You are going to have to miss a year because if you screw them up again, you might not walk it without having like the real surgery where they're putting plates in your ankles and pins and all that. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound like fun. So the coach there at the time was Justin Sherwood. So I contacted him. I said, hey, look, this is my situation, but I'm going to have to redshirt my first year. And he said, look, I can't, you're out of state. We're giving you a lot of money. I can give 2 kids in state scholarships for what I would give it to you. He's like, we'll take you here. You have your letter of intent money. You can have that, but we'll have to just have you sit on the bench and you're just going to have to, we're not going to be able to give you anything until you play your next year. And I grew up in a low income home, so that was going to be a tough bullet to bite. So I just asked, well, what's the guarantee that I'm going to have something come my junior year? Because it's expensive to be out of state. And he said, well, there's no guarantee. We'll just have to play it by ear. And I said, well, it's not going to work. So I did take the year off from school. I took night classes just to be active in some online classes. And then I transferred over to Central Washington, where I graduated from. I didn't play there. I thought about it, but two of the kids that went to Olympic after I left, they got scholarships after their freshman year to go to Central Washington.
Yeah.
And they quit playing for the team. And so I went and spoke to both of them. They really had a lot of not great things to say about the coach, which made it hard because my coach, Reese Glico, and he only coached for those 2 years at Olympic, but he was hard. He was a real tough coach. He believed in pushing people to the point of breaking mentally. So your physical body's going through some wars, but he knew what he was doing, man. I mean, 3 of 4 of my best friends to this day came from those years at Olympic. So it was a great experience. And then to take that and know that I was going to have a vastly different experience, I was like, no, I don't really want to go somewhere where nobody likes each other and the coach hates everybody and everybody hates the coach. And it's not really any sort of synchronicity. So I just got my degree there. But I went out to your neck of the woods a few times, and it's just a lot of farm country.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. A lot of people say, man, that's nothing but wheat fields. And that's my idea of a great scene. So, yeah.
It's funny because growing up in a small town, and I didn't grow up in a farm country town, but I grew up in a small town, less than 1,000 people. So lots and lots of open land, It's nice, I think about it now, like in my younger years, I wanted the city experience. I lived in Seattle for a couple of years, or I lived in Seattle for 8 months before I moved to California, right in downtown. I loved it. And so I love being able to have, when you're younger and single and all that, it's great to kind of have options and you can go do things and there's always something to do, and I really enjoyed that. But, now being a little older and having a kid and stuff, I'm all about that life. I would have told Tara that if we leave Southern California, I want to have a minimum of 2 acres of land. She's like, why do you want to have land? I was like, because I want quiet. I want peace. I don't want to be on top of everybody, and I want to be able to do stuff. I want to have my own little area that I can walk away from the house and have whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is, just something where I can be active and
no doubt.
have some peace and quiet.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So there's something about being in nature that changes your perspective.
Most definitely. I feel the when I used to surf all the time. I loved it. It was really those, that quiet time where it's just you and the waves and God, it's a beautiful thing. I enjoy it. It's nice to have that quiet time.
Absolutely.
So, do you ever recruit kids from Washington State, knowing how intense basketball is there? Yeah,
we do. We've had a lot of success. In fact, on our best teams, we've had 2 of our starting guards were from Washington, played at Spokane Community College, and then transferred to us. And we've had 6 guys now from Spokane Community College. I'm really close with the coach there, Jeremy Groth, and then we've had a couple other guys from Washington as well. So this year we have 2 guys coming from the state of Washington, one from the east side, one from the west side. So yeah, I love recruiting the Northwest, and I think it's a niche just because those kids, similar to how I was, those kids have a vision for, what it would be like going to school in California and the sun and the beach and all that, coming from a cold weather place. So I think it's a niche that we can attract good talent to. and we can find a lot of kids that are great fits for the school.
Oh yeah,
so.
well, and a lot of those kids that might be those D2 kids are willing to sacrifice that idea if they know they're coming to the sunny state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the advantage we have with some out-of-state kids is we're able to communicate. It's less about, the perceived level of play, and it's more about, getting to a place where you get to have a great experience and do it in a very unique area. Because for me, when I came down here, I had never been to California when I visited down here, and I was blown away. Like when we drove around the Newport Beach area, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like this place is crazy. This is amazing. And like I can just drive 2 miles down, and I'm at the PCH, and I get to just come hang out here whenever I want. It was like, for me, that was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But that was coming from a kid from the country who, it was a change of pace, and I thought 2 years, this is going to be a great experience. So
as you've gotten into your position over at Vanguard, they had never won a national championship, correct?
Not in men's basketball. The only program that had is women's basketball with Coach Davis. Yeah.
So when did you take the job at Vanguard University? What year was that?
That was April of 2010 is when I got there.
Your national championship, 2014.
Correct. Yep.
So you got 4 years, 4 seasons, you were national champions.
Yeah.
So how's that feel?
Well, considering where we started, it was the most unlikely of stories, and equally as unlikely as it was equally as fun, to be a part of that team. And when I say a part of that team, I really mean that. Like, your best teams are always going to be player-led teams where the guys have a strong sense of ownership over the product that they put on the floor, and over the way they represent themselves, their families, the school. And that team had a strong sense of responsibility for representing well all those areas. And then they were also really good players, and they loved hoops. Like that's when it's always, a team is always funnest to be around and to work with, when they have a passion about what they're doing, and then they do it from a place of humility and gratitude. So that team was actually like, not only were they fiercely competitive and really talented, that team was like a Division I team in terms of the talent on that team. But they were also, fiercely competitive, but humble and full of gratitude, like every day. Like that team really practiced well. So a team that, like when I got there, I think the year before they had won 4 or 5 games. My first year, we only won 6. We lost. I really believe like year 1 was a huge component of getting to the point where year 4 was possible, because we only won 6 games that year, but the month of February that year in conference, we lost 5 overtime games in the month of February, and one of them was triple overtime, I think, to Westmont. And so as I look back at that, the amazing thing was like 3 of those 5 games, I think, were the top 25 teams in the conference, teams that were perennial powers, like Azusa Pacific and some of those. And earlier in the year, we play Azusa and we get beat by 30. We just get smacked at home, and then we take them to overtime on the road at their place. And we did the same thing with Westmont, who was a top team, and Biola, and all these teams were top of the conference. And we lost to Concordia, who won the league that year. I think we lost to them in the second round, first round by 30, second round by 7 or 6 or something like that. I'd have to look. But the reason I say that year was directly tied to year 4 was that team's actually set a tone. There was as many successes that year because that team and our program set a tone for no matter what, we don't quit, And those guys owned that year 1, and it was hard, and I wasn't always positive, I was on those guys, and I was I had to learn how to move the needle on performance and production without sacrificing relationship, and still trying to help the guys understand, like, there's a standard, but no matter what, we love you, and so like that can be a tricky balance in competitive college athletics. Is yeah, like, hey, we love you no matter what.
Most.
Yeah, but there's a standard.
Yeah, and it's challenging because for me, I have to be very vocal about, like, this is how life is on the court. This is life off the court. Off the court, I am here for you no matter what. You can talk to me about anything. My phone, you guys have my number if you need to, like, whatever it is, right? Like, off the court, we are family. We're friends. We act very differently. On the court, I am the coach. I am the alpha. You are the players. You are here. You're not here. So we have to remember where we stand. And I'm very, very strict coaching the guys, especially at Calvary. It's tricky, man. And especially because I am a believer and most of the players are believers. I'm not a negative person, but I'm an accountability person. So I hold you accountable for your actions and what happens. It's hard.
Yeah.
But, Calvary's program pretty well. So, the JV team has had one win in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to me being there. So we had a really good year. It was nice having such a low standard of athletics, because all the sports teams do bad. It's just, except wrestling. They're known for wrestling. Wrestling always kills it. So I actually just started there with the strength conditioning program, and the girls went to state. Boys went into the second round of CIF. My team took second place in league. Had a great, best records they've ever had as a JV program we had last year, which was awesome. So it's nice to be able to see, like, what happens when you put in all this hard work, time and energy and effort, and then how it shows itself afterwards. I went and bought 4 bottles of, like, sparkling cider, and because I knew we were going to win the home. We're at home. It's our last game of the season. It was against Orange, and we beat them by, like, I want to say we beat them by 30 with only 5 kids in their house. Maybe I might have had 6. I think I started with 6. I ended up with 5. Somebody got hurt. So at this game, I had all 9 kids, which was the 4th game of the season. We had 25, 26 games. I only had 4 games where I had 9 kids play. Oh, so really? All 9 kids were healthy. All 9 kids could play. And we just mangled them. We beat them by, it was I think closer to 50 points. And I like the coach over there. He took the program as a last minute thing. So I tried not to, I tried to work on some passing stuff and some play stuff, but it's also our last home game. The gym is packed because they haven't had a history of doing well. When I first started there, our first game, I think there was a dozen people in the stands, and it was just the players' parents. And the announcer had come over and talked to me. He's like, hey, I just want to let you know, since this is your first year, it's really nice you have some parents here, but we tend to, after a couple of games during the season, we tend to have no one in the stands, nobody from the away team, because they know they're going to beat us, and no one for the home team because they know they're going to lose. And so it's just a really quiet experience. He said, I'm looking forward to seeing what you bring. I heard some good things about you. I said, well, I guess we're going to find out together, aren't we? And within I want to say it was probably within 2-3 weeks, we really started to see the stands fill up. And we won a few games. We won our first 2 games, and then we played in a couple of really big tournaments, which I'm glad we played in, but we had no shot at winning games. We're playing Long Beach Millikan, Modern Day. And this is a JV team that's mostly freshmen. In our league, we were the youngest team by almost 2 years.
Wow.
And I only had 9 guys. I didn't start off with 9 guys. I started off with 6. 5 were freshmen and 1 sophomore. We brought in a couple more guys I had 1 junior and 5 freshmen. 3 sophomores came in. They kind of trickled in, but I had a really young team. And so and no club kids, 0 club experience, which can matter, right? Especially when you're playing
Absolutely.
teams like, Long Beach Milliken, Troy, Sunny Hills, which are all these teams we play, Ocean View. So we got pretty badly beat up, but the kids never gave up, which was the most inspiring thing to see. Like, they worked their tails off. They didn't pout. They didn't take plays off. They sprinted up and down that court. But, we're playing – we started off so good. And I was like, yes, we could go on these tournaments and we can compete. I think we competed, just not – the scoreboard didn't reflect that. But we played Ocean View. They have 4 kids bigger than me. I'm 6'3", 200 pounds. They have 4 guys bigger than me. Their bench was like, they probably had 12, 13 guys. They had a deep bench. There were guys bigger than me coming off their bench. I don't even have a kid even close to my size. And there's 5, 6 of us, So my kids were literally going in for layups, and they were hitting these dudes and bouncing off and falling into the wall. And you can't get upset with the ref because the kids were just standing straight up.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't do anything wrong. So I can't get upset that my kids are so tiny that they just bounce off these guys like BBs off of a tree. And then of course these big kids, they just post up. We're doubling them, we're tripling them, which is great. Maybe we'll stop that one big guy from scoring in the post, but he'll just hold the ball over his head and chuck it out to a perimeter guy who will hit a 3. It's just like, where do you make the sacrifice this year? So finally I was like, you know what? They're hitting 3-pointers. Take away the perimeter. If the big guys are going to score, box them out, take out the knees, and whatever happens. And we took a few big L's in that, but it was a good experience to teach the kids some things.
Play the best. Yep, no doubt.
So it'll be nice to see how they do this year because, in theory, they're all coming back, and I think I'm only losing 1 or 2 of the kids to varsity because at Calvary, all juniors have to play varsity. They don't have some schools, all seniors have to play varsity. So some schools, seniors will play JV, but at Calvary, they have a strict senior policy that all seniors play varsity no matter what. So I lose 1 kid because he was a junior this year. And then we have a kid who's a star QB at Calvary. His name's Ian, and he's a pretty big guy, actually. When we got him, we finally had someone that was close to my size, which was nice. Kid is a horse. I don't think that – I've heard that he's a little bit on the spectrum of autism. Good for him. Because you tell that kid to run through a wall, he will run through a wall. If you tell him to jump up and hang on the rim and climb all the way up to the backboard and dive through it, he'll do it. Whatever you tell him to do, he'll do. He doesn't have like that there's no like filter for him. So when I say you go 100% in everything we do, he goes 100% everything we do, including games. This guy is, and he's fast. So he's outrunning guys up and down the court all game long. I don't even sub him, and he doesn't – nobody can beat him on any team. He is the fastest guy. He is a bruiser. So he goes after every rebound. He was a game changer for us. Getting him, the kid had to have averaged, oh my gosh, 15, 20 rebounds a game easily. No, there's no question asked. They would take 3 guys and try and box him out, and they couldn't box him out with 3 guys. He would still get the rebounds. His scoring took a little while to get up there. At first, I think his first couple of games, he couldn't even make a wide-open layup. But we worked on his game, and he started getting, I think the last half of league, he averaged a double-double every game. So that was fun to see. But that, just that whatever in his head that doesn't have that filter of things, it was great. I wish I had all my kids like that.
Absolutely. You want everybody to just first time. That's what I always tell my kids. How many times is dad going to ask you? And they have to look at me and say, 1 time. I said, that's right, 1 time. Time to brush your teeth, okay? Unfortunately, they don't get it. I'm not hitting the batting 1,000 on that one.
Yeah.
I'm batting about 295, which is still good enough in Major League Baseball to be in the Hall of Fame. But at home, that's not a good rate of return.
Yeah, right. So after you won your national championship, how easy was it easier for you guys to recruit after that to get players because they knew that they were coming to a program that had done really well?
Yes and no. I think yes, in some sense, in that like what I think as an NAI program, what you hope for, the nature of our level is kind of like, I guess to summarize it, who's left and who's transferring, like who's left that doesn't go Division I out of high school, the top kids, and we're trying to compete with a lot of the top D2s and stuff for kids, and then who's transferring, so who is, kids that have gone away to Division Is, maybe local kids that have gone to Division I and it wasn't the experience or the opportunity they thought it would be, for a variety of reasons,
Right.
or junior college kids who maybe people are missing on, stuff like that. So I think, it probably shifted our perception a little bit in the recruiting world, just in terms of probably more with coaches and with parents and, high school coaches, AU coaches, that, okay, that's a local program that has kind of emerged as a national level program at the NAI level. So I think the way it maybe paid dividends a little bit is it used to be we were always trying to get in on a lot of the transfer market, and like what good players out there can we get involved with that are high level transfers. And it probably helped us maybe get the call, a little bit more, instead of having to chase the ability to connect and try to convince somebody that, hey, we're building a great program here too. So, we've had a couple players where we've gotten, a really good transfer because they reached out to us because they recognized us as a good program, whereas before maybe I wasn't getting that call, especially from people I didn't know, so I would say that's the biggest area that showed up. But in terms of like actually closing on kids, I mean, the recruiting game comes down to the job you do in building a great relationship and the ability you have to really cast a vision for, what's possible and for that young man, and so like it doesn't matter necessarily what we've done. Each opportunity, each relationship is unique, and those kids want to know, the reality of where they're at in life is they're still at a stage of life where they're saying, what's in it for me? And so if we don't do a great job of shaping and casting a vision for how we're going to build them up and how we're going to make them the best version of themselves, you can lose your edge in recruiting real quick, and so that's what we try to do is and we have some things that we talk about in the recruiting process that some of them might be popular things to talk about, in terms of system and style of play and how we do things, and kids get excited about that because it's hoops. But then we talk about things that aren't as fun for kids to talk about, because we want to know if there's certain things that we talk about in the recruiting process that scare a kid off or they're not that into. That's usually a good indicator they may not be a good fit anyway. We talk about, hey, we're gonna dive into your life and we're gonna want to know what makes you tick, and we're gonna want to know about your family, and we want to know your story, and we want you to tell us about your life and what, all those things, because you can't really have impact at the surface level with guys. And the thing about college guys, they're smart. Like it's not like these guys are coming in and they're still, some of them might be still a little bit green, in certain areas of their life and innocent, if you want to say, but the reality is most of the guys we're getting, they may not understand the big picture yet, but in terms of what affects them, they understand exactly what's going on.
Right.
There's no tricking guys. There's only relationship and building trust and trying to point them to something bigger than themselves. And as we do that in the recruiting process, if it doesn't excite guys, then we're okay with that, because we want who wants to be here. So there's plenty of good players. There's good players everywhere. There's not a shortage of talent, but we're trying to be really intentional about getting really good talent that where the guys have a strong desire to grow. Like they want to be challenged, they want to be coached, they want accountability, they want to get in the weight room, they want to get extra work on the court, they want to be great students. Even if they don't know what they want to major in, we get a sense that they want to be excellent in everything they do. everything checks out with the coaches we talk to, in their program, opposing coaches. We do our research, so there's a lot of work that goes into it. I think we check more guys off the list, and not just for character stuff, but for other reasons too. But we certainly check more guys off the list than we do, keep guys on the list.
What would you say is your pool per year? So every recruiting year, do you have 40 guys you're looking at, you would say, and then you whittle it down to your bottom, to your top 2 or 3, or do you have 50? Is it 60 or is it 15?
Yeah, we spend the previous year always building out a list, an initial list, and then usually what we find is by the end of the year that list not only has that list been whittled down, but it actually might look completely different. Like some of those guys may remain on the list, but throughout the course of that recruiting cycle, we're going to be adding and adding and adding,
right,
to the point where as you add new guys, other guys you might keep them on that list just to keep following, check in. But, there's certainly there's always a percentage of guys that we recruit that we know we're not going to get to, or feel like we probably won't get this guy, but we'd love to have him. So just because, some of those guys, they have a ton of Division I love early, but then all of a sudden things can change, and it can all go away.
Well, you guys snagged one of my kids, Timmy. So when did you guys, because, I think in a few conversations we've had, I think we've only spoken on Tim one time, and that was a while ago. And I really didn't know you guys were even interested in him. So what was that for him? When did you guys?
Yeah. Well, so I've known Jeff Barakoff for a long time,
right,
and he's doing a great job at Pacifica Christian. And every year I try to get down to his practices, and he runs a great practice, and he's a really good coach. So we've gone down there, and then, I had gotten to know Timmy just kind of through that, being around practice. My daughter also goes to Pacifica Christian. Okay. So I've gotten more, she's a freshman. So over this year, I've gotten more connected to the school, and I've gone to all their, they don't have a homecoming, but their equivalent of their homecoming game and stuff like that. And so become kind of just a supporter of the school and of the team from a distance, just because my daughter goes there, and that place does a great job of building a sense of school pride. And so in that process, I discovered a few things. One, Timmy's parents were Vanguard alums, and figured out that we had a lot of with Timmy's family, we had a lot of mutual connections there, where we knew a lot of the same people, and a lot of great families that had wonderful things to say about Timmy. And then as I got to know more about him on the periphery, I tried to get to know him better, individually and one-on-one. So long story short, I started watching Timmy play in practice and games. I started watching him, and what started the process with him was his character and what I learned about who he is and what a great kid he is. What continued the process with him was then when because I heard such great things about his character and saw them to be true, then you really start evaluating closer. And then all of a sudden I'm watching him play, and all of a sudden he's in a passing lane that a lot of guys can't get to, and he's just quick into the lane to make a play on the ball. He's picking up the ball 94 feet and guarding the guy like crazy, the other team's best player. He rotates over on the weak side, takes a charge, and then he gets up in the very next play. Their guard drives, kicks to Timmy, and he sticks an open shot and doesn't beat his chest or do anything. Look at me. He just gets back on defense and plays just as hard the next possession. And so I love how even he was. I love that what you see in his character off the court, it translates and it shows on the court. He knows, he's coming into a level where he's got to really raise, his game, and he's ready to do that. And I think his character is what will show up when it's time for him to do that, So yeah, he's just a young man we believe in, I guess, to summarize it.
He's such a good kid, man. He's such a good player. We went and played in the Fab 48, not this last year, but the year before. And man, he was just, because we played, he played 17U. So he was probably 16. You're playing 18-year-old, 19-year-old guys.
Yeah.
Man, he would just frustrate everybody. He was the only kid I've ever almost gotten into a fight protecting in my career coaching. We were in this little gym. I don't even know where it was. And we got there. It took us a while to find it too, but we got there. And at this time, he was playing with the 16U team because I had a few different teams. So I'd move a couple of guys up and down because you have X amount of games you're allowed to play, right? But his main team, so I had this powerhouse 16U team I worked really hard on. All these guys were good kids. I don't know if you know who Drew Yazbek is over at Korean Lutheran, but Drew was on the team, Timmy, Josh. I had just all these kids, man. It was a solid group of guys, and we had been just steamrolling people. And this team we were playing was not 16U. These dudes were all tatted up. You could tell that they were older just by looking at them. You could tell they were 18, 19 years old. So I was a little pissed about that because they're supposed to regulate this stuff, and the refs are supposed to do that. But, whatever. We're going to play. I don't care. And then when we're beating these guys were talking trash to each other in front of me, talking about how they're 18, 19 years old and the only schools that they could get into are JUCOs, right? So I now know that they really are 18, 19 years old. So anyways, it was a good game. It was super competitive, very physical. It was a hard-fought game. So it was a 2-point game. Either we were up by 2 or we were down by 2. I don't remember. But it was at halftime. So at halftime, we're sitting along and we're talking, and I had my coach, one of my assistants who I was having help, orchestrate things so I could pay attention to some other stuff. So he's talking about what we're going to do coming in the second half. And this guy from the other team had walked over to the court and was pushing up on Timmy and trying to get into the huddle. And Timmy turned around and saw who it was and was like, hey, and kind of like pushed him back a little bit and said, hey, you can't be here. And the dude pushed Timmy and was like, I'm going to, just start getting very colorful with language. And I walked right over to him and I put my hands behind my back and put my body into him and started pushing with my body towards his bench. And he's talking trash, saying he's going to knock me out and stuff. And so I'm just pushing with my body, walking him over to where the refs are standing. And so the refs finally turn around and see that we're like literally nose to nose. Our bodies are pressed up against each other. I'm trying to get him out of our area. And the refs come at me like I'm the one doing something wrong. So I talked with the refs and, they got him separated out and stuff. But we ended up losing it was either double overtime or triple overtime by 1 point. We had the shot and we just missed it. I think Drew was the one that took the shot, but what a competitive game. It was an absolute battle. It was I want to say we're in the semifinals because it was Sunday. I want to say it was like Sunday night. So if we won, we would have been in the championship. It would have been 2 more games to win the whole thing, I think, on Monday. But
plenty of stories from that place.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Timmy is such a good kid, man. I love him. He's such a hard worker, does such a great job, and he's been such a fun kid to watch play because his basketball IQ is so high. He doesn't turn the ball over almost ever.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, he's a kid that he's been through the fire, man. You want to talk about a kid that's earned his battle scars. He's got a long track of them. But I was super excited to see that he signed with you guys. Like, I'll watch him locally.
Yeah, he's good. He's gonna be good. He's gonna make his teammates better too, which is awesome. Yeah.
How many freshmen do you guys typically take as opposed to transfer kids?
It all depends. I mean, I would say in general we're usually split down the middle between high school freshmen and then JC or 4-year transfers. So like this year we'll have 3 freshmen coming in and two transfers, junior college guys, both of them. And so, yeah, that's probably pretty typical, or that might flip 2 freshmen, 3 transfers, that type of deal. The biggest thing is, we have to make sure, like with transfers, we got to make sure that we have a grad plan for them and that it's gonna work academically for them to graduate and stuff. And then for the most part, if a California JUCO kid has stayed on track with getting his associate's degree, he's going to be fine to graduate at Vanguard. So.
Now you had a kid that got hurt in a car accident last year.
We did, yeah.
Is he going to be able to play, or is he out now?
Yeah, he's going to be back. Yeah, John, he played at Crean also. Yeah,
Yep.
so he'll be back, and he's back working out now. It's been a long road, but he's going to be good to go.
So what happened? He was a passenger in a car. He was driving.
Passenger hit by a drunk driver. Pretty. You hear it a lot. You hear it all too often. And it was a few days after Christmas. Dad, brother, and him just driving up. They were going to, I think they were taking a highway just to go up and see snow because it had snowed up there, and got hit head on. The other driver was going, they figured about 70 miles an hour.
Now, they were all, him and his dad and his brother all survived that.
Yes. Yep.
The other driver survived it as well?
Yes. Yep. Significant injuries and stuff. Just been it's been a long, hard road.
Yeah, that's really challenging.
Yeah, but a lot of prayer, a lot of support, a lot of people surrounding them, loving them, and I think they're at the point now where, unfortunately, we're in quarantine, and this would be the time that they would all be kind of wanting to spread their wings and get out and get back to normal life, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's not happening. I think but they're doing great. They're a resilient family, family of faith, and they're an incredible testimony of resiliency and trust, and so it's been cool. I've learned a lot just watching how they've handled it, so.
Yeah, the quarantine thing's been challenging, but I'm glad he's okay. I heard that, and I've watched him play because Drew plays at Crean as well. A couple of my other guys have coached for the years, so I always go watch. I didn't know him personally, but I've obviously seen him play. I was really sad to hear that he got so badly hurt.
Yeah. John, I think he's gonna have a good year. Good several. He can really shoot it. I mean, he's a high level shooter with deep range, and he's a weapon. So he's getting healthy, getting fit right now, and he'll be ready to go. So
how many guys do you have this year on the team? Do you have 15?
Yeah, we usually carry 15 or 16, and so that's where we're at this year too. And then we have a development team too, so sometimes we'll have a guy that maybe is really performing well early, and that guy can move up and stuff like that. So it can fluctuate a little bit.
For your development team, do you guys just let kids walk onto that, or do you recruit for that team too?
We recruit for it, yeah. So we actively go out and identify guys that it's fun. For me it's a really fun team to have because one of my assistants runs it, and it's really cool because one of my assistants, whoever runs it that year, gets a chance to be a head coach, and like put it in his own stuff, and it's usually consistent with what we do, but there's always going to be tweaks and changes based on personnel. So he gets to one of my young assistants always gets to be a head coach and do that. And then for the players, it's neat because a lot of those guys we get they're good players. Like we get good players, but there's a lot of guys out there who just don't have an opportunity. There's limited opportunities to play on. And so what we provide is an opportunity to go to a great school, get a great education, and you still get to hoop with the opportunity to, if you play well, perform and improve over that year. We're always watching our development team and seeing if there's guys that could transition up and help our program. And so,
how many guys do you float on that team?
We usually have 12 to 15, depending on the year. Yeah. And then a couple guys even on that team will redshirt, if they have injuries or, sometimes they just want to practice. We'll allow that too. If a kid really wants to do that and save a year of eligibility because he feels like he's going to have a chance down the road to be a varsity guy or whatever, we're open to that. That's always a decision a kid can make.
I have a kid that I coached in 8th grade, and then he played for me for maybe a month, but he ended up having some knee issues. And he called me up, and he got accepted to Vanguard, and he's like, "Hey, I want to play basketball there." I was like, "All right."
Oh, really?
Well, what I gotta do is go online, look up Rhett Soliday's information, and shoot him an email and call him. And they have a development team there, so you're gonna probably start there. But let him know that you got accepted, and that's where you're gonna go. And he's a good kid. To be honest, I can't vouch for him one way or another because I haven't seen him play in a year, almost 2 years. So, I mean, he's tall, he's athletic. When he was playing, he was a good kid. I don't know if he was, I don't know what his year was like. He told me a little bit about his season this last year at Segerstrom High School.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a starter, and I think from what I understand, he had a really good year. But
yeah, well, I would say give my cell number too, because I might be the worst email guy in the country.
yeah, so I'll reach out to him and let him know. But so really quickly as we kind of wrap up here, last thing. So what are the things that you guys look for? What are ways that kids can get themselves noticed by you as far as the recruiting process if Vanguard's a school they want to go to?
Yeah, I always say the recruiting game, it's never it's not a science, it's an art, meaning it's always changing, fluctuating, needs change, personnel changes, maybe sometimes system style of play can shift, which dictates what you need. I just think kids need to focus on the constants that don't change. So, if you want to get recruited, I had to figure this out. I figured this out in high school when nobody recruited me. A couple local junior colleges and a local Division III recruited me, and I was thankful that they were interested in me. But the reality was, I had a couple things that made me appealing. I was in high school, I was 6'3", I was a 6'3" point guard, and I could shoot it, so I was a bigger guard that could shoot. But then I started figuring out, like, okay, if this is the level of interest I have, there must be some separators that some of these guys have that are going on to high level schools out of high school, and so I had to start thinking about that, like, what are things that are separators? And I had somebody encourage me to do that. And so I think today, like, what I had to figure out, what kids need to think about today is there are, in my opinion, even more, I think talent, the game has gone through the roof in terms of the talent, the athleticism, the number of people playing and pursuing opportunity to play on. Like, it's just so competitive and so many things going to help kids achieve that goal. However, I don't think kids necessarily are being challenged enough to think about doing all the little things that are separate, what I would call separators. And so, like, in our program, there's some absolutes we have that I love to see if a kid already has those as absolutes in his game. Absolute meaning I do this absolutely every time without exception, And so what I'm looking for when I watch a guy play is there's three things we talk about, and it's kind of Coach Wooden-esque, but Wooden talks about attitude and effort. So we're evaluating that hard. Like, we evaluate attitude hard, how a guy goes in the game, how he comes out of the game, how he's engaged on the bench when he's not playing. Does he communicate? Does he understand how to, use physical love taps and pats on the back and on the head to encourage his teammates? Does he understand how to acknowledge a good pass? All those things that display attitude. Does he look the coach in the eyes? And some kids haven't been taught that that's an absolute for them. Like, you always look the coach in the eyes. Right. And so then it comes down to, when you talk to him one-on-one, does he understand, and is he going to understand what a teachable spirit is to learn those things, And so with attitude as a teachable spirit, you only get to know that through, building a relationship with them and getting to know them, and then talking to people who know them well, So the second one is effort. To me, that's just a given. I think it's almost, in some ways, to me, it's almost easier to shape attitude than it is to shape effort. I just think that's a very innate thing. I think kids can learn to be more self-aware, and they can be given tools and ways to verbally, have a better self-talk that can help them shape their attitude. It's not always easy, but I think it's possible. In my opinion, the effort thing is harder to shape, because that's just something that kind of is just in there. It's a kid's kind of got it or he doesn't. And I haven't seen too many kids that gave no effort and like didn't understand the importance of effort and started down here, and then all of a sudden a month later they're up here. There's always exceptions to everything, but in general, the effort thing to me has been harder to overcome than the attitude thing. Like, a kid's either got that fire to compete or he doesn't. So we're evaluating that. Does he have it, that it factor? And you can't always describe it. And then the third one, which, Coach Wooden doesn't talk about much, but there's attitude, there's effort, and then there's the response, And so the response to me is like, you can have a great attitude and display that. You can give great effort, but then there's this whole other thing with the game of basketball and the game of life that comes in. It's called adversity, And so a lot of people have a great attitude and they give great effort, but when things go south, they don't know how to respond. And I think that's a skill. I actually think the cherry on top of attitude and effort is response, because we always tell our guys, like, hey, fellas, the storm is coming, and we don't know what that's going to look like, whether that's adversity off the court, adversity on the court, injuries, illness, family issues, school issue, the storm is coming for each of you, and the storm is coming at some point in this season for our team. And so I want people in that boat, during the storm, that are going to understand the importance of response in all situations, because attitude and effort are always constants until they're not,
Right.
And you can see it. Oh, this kid's consistent all the way through, but then adversity hits, the storm arrives, and response is what really kind of determines if that attitude and effort are real, and if they can stay the course. That's why that's the purpose of a team too, is to spur one another on, to encourage one another, to challenge each other, to hold each other accountable. And so those are kind of our big three. We're looking for to go with being a good student and being talented and having talent,
Well, like the given thing, right? Is you got to put in that work.
Yeah.
That work is only going to take you so far. Well, hopefully I'll have another kid for you in a couple of years. But I need to get my Vanguard gear now. I need a shirt.
That's right. We'll get you hooked up.
I didn't know if it would. I worked really hard for getting something over there. And it was a kid I didn't even think would I love Timmy, and I knew he was a Division II NAI division. I knew he was an NAI or a Division II kind of player from having had him and having him, even watch him go against guys that we know went to Division I schools, and how he dismantled them, really.
Yeah.
It's always exciting though. Every year I have all my guys that go, and I'm always so excited to see. It's been a huge blessing to see so many guys make it to the next level. Although this year was definitely challenging. I still have a few seniors that haven't signed yet, but this coronavirus thing has been tough, because I had a couple of opportunities for them lined up for the last few guys to get taken care of, and man,
it's really tough.
Yeah, it's been so hard, and now it's just like, well, probably gonna have to go the JC route, and for some of them, they have such good grades and they're high level guys, and they just, it is what it is, right? JC's there for a reason. It's a great opportunity to
huge for me. Huge for me. My junior college experience was every bit as fulfilling as my 4-year experience. I was fortunate to play for a great coach and have great teammates where I was at, and financially for my family, it made sense based on where we were at and the opportunities I had, too. And that's what a lot of kids, I hope they understand is if like a lot of people, like if you're a local high school kid here in Orange County, and Fullerton or Saddleback or Santiago Canyon or Irvine Valley, Cypress, any of these are recruiting you, like, a lot of kids don't understand how good those teams are. Like, there's been years that I've watched Saddleback, when they, in their heyday, when they had it really rolling, which they still do. I mean, they're still really good, but where I'd watch them and go, I think this team could compete with anybody in the Big West right now, and they just have freshmen and sophomores.
Yep.
I mean, and probably not beat them, but like compete with, with freshmen and sophomores, and they're the Orange.
There's a lot of kids that they didn't have the grades, or they're the D1 pushbacks, and they're killers. I have a kid right now at Saddleback, Corey, the big white boy I had. because he had to get a full ride offer to go somewhere, and nobody gave him a full ride offer. They gave him like, I think the highest he got was like maybe a 70%, maybe 75%. So he's going to Santiago Canyon College. Got a couple other guys that'll be, because of grades.
Yep.
They have schools looking at them, but they'll go to like the IVCs or OCCs or Santa Ana's because grades matter. No matter how much I beat that into their brains.
Yep. Absolutely.
You gotta learn the lesson the hard way. But well, Coach, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And how can people follow your journey or reach out to you or see what you're doing and what you've got going on?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we do is we always want our practice to be fully accessible. So if there's if there's coaches on here listening that are local that want to come to practice anytime, our doors are always open to practice. And so just hit me up. I check my office phone from time to time. There won't be any practice anytime soon, but I'm happy to jump on a call with people, Zoom with people, whatever. If I just love, the one thing I know is my wife always gets on me about things if I don't execute at home. And I say, well, I don't know a lot about a lot. I just know a little bit about a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at in life. And to me, that's a good place to be is striving to learn more, striving to grow, but recognizing that the last thing I got is it all figured out, So if there's people that, would see value in connecting with me, I would see value in connecting with them to learn from them, whether it's talking hoops, leadership, whatever. So people can reach out to me anytime. Email me rhett.soliday@vanguard.edu and I can send my contact info through there. And
Perfect.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. It's always been a blessing to hang out with you. And I'll again, for those, you can also go onto the Vanguard University website and just go under athletics and men's basketball, and your email and phone number on there, which is easily accessible. And thanks for joining us today. This is Get It with Stephen Beseda on the Social Nostra Network, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks.